My name is Orlandina Ballard, and I am the Fertile Woman. I'm an educator, motivator, professional bodybuilder. I am the People's Health Coach, here to help you to become your best selves. And this is Muscles and Stillettos. I am Wonder Woman, a wonder of a woman, a creature so fearfully and wonderfully made that even my creator had to sit back and say, "Ooh, man, an amazing Amazon, protected to all. Hell hath not the fury that I can unleash, should I on my loved ones be scorned. Mother Earth, growing potential thoughts, potential ideas, birthing those ready to be born and those ready to be reborn." Hey, Fit Fam, it's your girl, Orlandina Ballard, and welcome to another episode of Muscles and Stillettos. As we've said before, this season is all about reclaiming your dreams and speaking your truth. In order to be able to reclaim your dream and speak your truth, you have to know who you are. And in the process of becoming this new you, this evolved you, you have to be able to let go of the definition that you have of yourself. You know who you are, who you were, and be allowed to be broken down into your finest parts in order to be built up again, to be built up stronger. And even though in breaking down, I remember reading a poem where they speak about when we're putting ourselves together, there are these cracks. You know, if you put an object together that's been broken, when you put it together, you see all the little cracks. And sometimes we say, "Oh my God, look at the cracks. It's a blemish." No, it just shows that this is an object that was so loved that person took time to put it back together piece by piece, and that's you. And sometimes to have the assistance of a coach to help you put yourself back together is one of the best things you can have. I remember a time in my life where I thought I knew who I was. I thought I knew where I was going, and God thought otherwise. He broke me down to my finest parts. And it was blessed. I was so blessed to have people come into my life to help me put myself together again. And to have those coaches and mentors meant the world to me. I call them like little pearls, and they gave me shared pearls and tenets of wisdom. And so I wanted to invite my friend Marie Williams, who is also a fitness instructor. She's a coach in her own right. She is also a wedding officiant. She coaches her couples into having the most amazing wedding ceremony. And yesterday we were just talking about the coaches in our lives and how they're all maniacs. We always compare them, the maniac coaches that we have.
And the crazy coaches that we have. They're nuts.
And we always like, he's crazy. She's like, yeah, he's crazy. And then she said, what's crazier, the fact that they're crazy or the fact that we follow the craziness? I'm like, I'm going to leave it on them. I'm going to just say, I'm going to blame it on the coaches. But Maria and I have also found that we have become coaches in our own right. I'm a health coach. She is a certified fitness instructor, so she's a coach. And we've spoken about what it means to coach our clients and what we're looking for in a client that is coachable. But we also look for those things within ourselves because we know that we are also being coached, whether through our fitness coaches or mentors or whatever. We are continuously being coached. So today we just wanted to talk about what it means to evolve, to become this new you, to be coached into the new you. So, Marie, you said something interesting. You said that in the evolution of self, one has to let go of ego. I was like, ooh. Can you explain what that meant? Because I thought ego was like,
yes,
stuck up self, and that's what I thought the definition of ego was. And you're like, no, that's not.
Yeah, the word ego has a lot of connotations to it. So people hear ego and you may automatically think, oh, someone's full of themselves and they think they're all of that. And, I'm not a psychologist, but, in work that I've done and just, reading and information that I've gotten, the ego is in plainest terms, it's who you know yourself to be. That's your ego in your own mind. And so who you know yourself to be and who you may believe you're representing yourself out in the world. And when you're on an evolutionary journey, and for me, life is all about evolution. What else are we here for but to grow and evolve and be greater? So when you're on that journey, there's a lot of things that have to be broken down in who you know yourself to be to make room for what you're evolving into. So to really, really learn the self, you have to destroy the ego. And the job of the ego is to say, oh, no, 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 I'm comfortable here. This works for me. We know how to do this. Why are you messing with a good thing? And that's what we come up against and we fight against. And that's that fear. That's that anxiety. That's that person who may know you in one way from, to be one way. And that person will come against you and you start questioning yourself. Well, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't change. Maybe I shouldn't try something new. Maybe I shouldn't leave what's comfortable and I already know. So those are, the layers of what the ego is.
So that brings us to this evolution of self, this concept of letting go of the ego, which is extremely difficult, Marie, because I know when, I'm acting like I'm beyond it, but I find that I have to go through it time and time and time again. It's like cyclical. Okay, I know who I am now, and then something happens, bam, I'm broken down again. I'm like, come on, are we doing this again? Like, really, God, what more? But it just finds every time I think I got it now, God is like, yeah, no, let's come back.
I mean, what I've learned is, again, through my own experience. And like I said, the work of life is the work of evolution. The moment that you're stagnant and you stop learning or stop growing or stop expanding yourself, then, your life stays on one level. And that's not what we're here to do. We're here to fulfill and evolve and to, find a purpose. And once you find your purpose, then the journey of the purpose is consistently evolving. So yeah, the layers never, I've done a lot of self-development work and a lot of work with mentors and coaches, not only in fitness, but just as a human being living on this planet, interacting with other human beings. It's always good to have a mentor and someone to help you out. And one person put it best. It's like, the layers of the onion, you never stop peeling them back. You just keep peeling. And every time you think you got into okay, this is it. I got it. I'm good. I know who I am. I know how this works. Something else comes up against it to get to another layer of that onion that you have to peel back. So that is the job of life. It really is.
And it's amazing because, like you said, it's this constant peeling and this constant, unraveling. And it's a very uncomfortable place to be. It's extremely uncomfortable, this unraveling, because one of the things we said that in this evolution of self, there has to be a death of the former self. And that's not easy. To let that self go, to let the old self die is extremely difficult. And to allow somebody to come into your space to help kill it. Look, I want to kill the old self and I want you to help me along. Because we were saying that, sometimes our coaches will push us into a place where we're just like shivering in a corner. I know sometimes after I'm like, oh my God, because it's just so uncomfortable, whether it be physically or mentally or emotionally, this coach appears to push you in these directions where you are so uncomfortable.
I mean, I've shared with you often one of my favorite quotes ever. And I can't remember, I don't know who it originated from. And I don't even remember how long ago that I had heard it, but it just rang and stayed with me all this time is before every creation, there must be destruction. Before every creation, there must be destruction. And if you think of that, what is creation? If you're a mother out there, that time in the labor room, I haven't had children of my own, but I've been in the room several times with family and friends. That struggle of labor, that creation, the destruction that goes on with it and breaking down the body for you to give birth to something. In nature, when something's bursting through the ground, you plant that seed, it's in the dark, but it's fermenting, it's growing. When it bursts through the ground, there's a destruction that happens. When fires happen, it clears out the field. The fire destroys everything. But from that fire, what is rebirth but new earth? So that saying, we've joked about it often too, that I see the gym as kind of like the life university. Because the things that you go through in the gym, the breaking down of the body, the breaking down of the mind, the moment you get comfortable in an exercise or a muscle or a body part is strong enough, so it's comfortable doing the reps. What does a good coach do? Well, we got to up the reps or up the weight, one or the other. So that, so the constant breaking down and bringing it back up and breaking down and building it back up is really what it's about. And, when you find a good coach, whether it be in the gym or a life coach, a person in your job or field of expertise, a mentor, someone who's been down the road and, they've learned some things and they're passing it on. That person's role is really to show you the steps that are needed and show you the path to go. But in the very end, what has to happen? You're the one that has to walk that path. You're the one that has to break through those barriers. You're the one that has to deal with yourself and go through the fear and being uncomfortable and being the new guy on the team, to learn what you need to learn so that you can get to the next level.
That brings us to the next point that we were speaking about. So we spoke about this evolution of you requires the death of the ego to birth the self, right? So you just said it, doing away with old habits so that you can create and establish new habits. It's very difficult.
Yeah, it can be difficult, but it's only difficult if you're in an argument with reality. Because if you have a goal, you have a destination, and these are the steps that you have to take, any behavior, I was working with my group. I had a 28-day program for January with my my clients, and it was all about really looking at how you eat, the foods you eat, and how you prepare them. And, some of them struggled. They all ended up doing great, but some of them struggled, especially in the beginning well, I don't know what to eat and I don't know. And, and I had to remind them that everything is a habit that you learned. The way you cook is a habit. The foods that you go in the supermarket and you automatically get time after time is a habit. So all you have to do is to replace the old habit with a new habit. And all that needs is consistency. So anything that we're doing in life, we're doing it because that's what we know to do. But when you discover a new way and a new path, what does that open up for you? A whole new world of things and experiences and possibilities to be different, to be better, to grow. It doesn't mean that the old way was bad. It just means that this new way may serve you a lot more. And so in the end, what is the goal? If this will serve me towards my goal greater than the way that I was doing it before, why not?
And the other thing is, if we have to do it, we have to be willing to do it. Like, we have to be willing to change those habits. We have to be willing to change our way of doing things.
Absolutely.
Doing the things that worked, but doing away with the things that didn't. As they say, to keep doing the same thing over and over again is insanity, especially if it doesn't work. So now that leads to the next point we were talking about: coaching versus coaxing. Coaching versus coaxing. What is the difference between being coached and being coaxed? And does a coach want to coach, or does a coach want to coax? Say that 3 times fast.
Right. Say that 3 times fast. I laugh, and we're both laughing because, we talked about this a little bit the other day, is, the job of a coach, the job of a mentor is to guide you, is to support you, is to provide you with tools or lead you to where the tools are for you to do whatever it is that you're there to do. The job of the coach is not to pull you along and make you do it. And, they can hold you accountable, but they're not there to babysit you. The decision has to be made by you that I'm going to do this no matter what it takes. And again, just referring back to the fitness world, because I think that's just something that people, whether you're a gym rat or not, you can understand the parameters. Or if I tell you to do 10 reps, 10 bicep curls, and you only do 5, and then tomorrow I tell you to do 10 bicep curls and you only do 6. By Friday, when I expect you, okay, now we're going to do 15 bicep curls and you're struggling at number 7, I'm like, well, as a coach, I'm like, well, that doesn't seem to make sense, because if you had done what I told you to do, you should be at a certain point.
Correct.
So you have to be the one willing to do as you are told. But it's not the coach that's going to make you do the bicep curls. It's up to you.
Your coach can coach you, meaning they'll set up everything that you need, make sure they'll give you the weights. They will get you to that place where you can do 15. But if you shortchange yourself, and this is something I tell my students, and this is something I tell my clients, when you shortchange or you don't do what we ask you to do, it's you that's going to get affected, not us. It's going to be you. I tell my students, if you think that cheating or not doing all of your homework assignment, not doing all the questions, you're getting one over, you're not getting over on anyone. It's you that's going to get affected, because as you said, now when it comes time for you to be able to perform, You can't do it because you didn't do the preparation. And it wasn't that your coach didn't lay it out for you. You just chose not to do the fifth and the sixth and the seventh rep, so that when the expectation was by Friday you should be able to do 15, now you can't.
And it's the funniest thing, if you've ever been in a group fitness, because you know me, I love my group fitness classes. But when you're in a group setting, human beings are so interesting, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
I find it hilarious when a grown adult who's, grown responsible adult, I'm sure in their everyday lives, probably has a family and work responsibilities and all kinds of other things, are hiding in a corner trying to make sure that the instructor doesn't see that, okay, I'm not going to do this last rep, or I'm going to cheat this one, or, everyone, hold a plank or something, and they're just going to sit there. I'm just going to rest. Oh, he's looking again. Okay, now it's like, are we in kindergarten or are we adults? It's hilarious to me because, as you said, at the end of the day, only person that you're hurting really is yourself. So who are you really hiding out on? And by the way, as instructors, we know that you're doing that. Just so you know, if you think that we don't know that you're in the back in the corner, not doing all the reps or hiding or cheating, we know. We can see everything from the front of the room.
The eyes in the back of our head. So now that we're speaking about we've laid out why having a good coach and why you need to be coachable, let's talk about what are the characteristics of a good coach. So what are the characteristics of a good coach?
For me, the number one thing for a good coach, and I don't want to just leave this in the fitness realm, because a coach, a mentor, someone that you have in your life, whether they're hired someone or it could be someone that you know personally, a family, an elder, or something like that. But that person has mastered something, has mastered the thing that you're seeking their advice or their influence on. They've put in the time or the energy, whether it's a certification that they've gone, multiple certifications or trainings that they've gone to have, or life experiences that they have, but they've gone through a journey of their own. And so they have reached a point where they understand this particular topic at a level where they can now provide you with something. And I think that's important, to really have someone that has taken the time and the energy and the effort, because it does take time and energy and effort to master something. That's not a, fly by night thing. It's not a hobby. I have a passion for this. That mentor or coach, they have a passion for it. It is who they are. So for me, that's one of the most important elements about it, is that, this is really an extension of who you are. And coach, mentor, master is just a label, but this is actually who you are.
I'm going to add to that, a good listener. A good coach is a good listener. A good coach is able to listen for whatever goals you have established for yourselves. But a good coach also listens for the unspoken. Because we'll say, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds, but you may not know. I'm not going to say you don't know what you want, but there's more to it than that. I want to lose 10 pounds because I want to be able to move around with my children. I want to lose 10 pounds because I want to be as active as I once was. But when you first come to the coach, you say, I just want to lose 10 pounds. But a good coach will ask questions and they will listen. And they'll listen for the things that you say, and they'll listen for the things that you don't say. And that's through conversation. So if you come to a coach and they're not asking you a lot of questions, you got to think about that. You really do have to.
I have a perfect example of that, So I'm also a wedding officiant. And as a wedding officiant, what I do with my couples is I meet my couples and I get to know them. And the only way you get to know people is by asking questions and speaking to them. So I need to know who you are. I need to know about how you met, your love story, why you decided to get married. So last month, I did a wedding for a couple who they were planning they have a big family. They were planning a huge wedding ceremony. But of course, we all know last year with COVID, weddings got canceled, venues closed, and all these different things. So long story short, they got to the point where their marriage license from the state was about to expire. So they needed to have this wedding. So I met with the bride and, we're talking about, it's like, we really need to do this. We only have, basically they had 2 weeks left before the expiration. And she, it's just going to be small. We can't invite all the people that we want to invite. So we're just going to have a small thing at the house. And her words were saying, it's going to be small. It's just going to be us. Just, want the legalities done of, yes, I do. And we're officially married. But in listening to her and learning about her family and learning about how they met, I knew that that wasn't the wedding that she wanted. And so I said to her, you know, this is not just another day. This is not just we're doing the legalities to make you married. This is your wedding day and it gets to be special. And she's like, yes, I know. And I took her hand and I said, no, this is your wedding day. Whether it's the two of you there or your hundreds and hundreds of family members, this is your special day and it gets to be special and it will forever be special. And in that moment, when it registered that I got that for her, you know, she teared up and it was a moment of like, yeah, I really do want it to be special and I don't want it to just be another day. And, you know, at the end of it, it was a very small ceremony. It was, you know, about maybe 20 people in the house, but it was beautiful. People were crying. It was fabulous. And at the end of the ceremony, not only her and her husband, but when a parent comes to me and says, that was the most beautiful wedding. Thank you so much. We all felt like we were a part of it. I started to tear. I was just like, oh my God, you're so welcome. But yeah, it was just, you know, and all that comes from listening, not just for what's said, but listening for what's not said.
And I think that brings us up to the next one. It's just that your coach is aware of seen and unseen. And it's crazy. I think you hit 2 points at once in that example. The vision.
A twofer. Yes.
It was a twofer. Your coach is able to see your limitations. They are able to even envision. They have the ultimate vision of what it is that you're looking for. So there's an awareness. You saw what they saw as a limitation, you know, crunch time. We're just trying to get this done.
Right.
But you also had the foresight and the vision to see, hey, listen, as I'm listening to you, I know what it is that you want. And I'm going to make sure that you get what you want, even in this crunch time.
Exactly.
You know, and that's what you need. Your coach needs to see beyond your sight. They believe in you, they believe in your goal, and they see beyond what you see. They see beyond your potential. I remember when I was going for my pro card, I didn't even understand what that meant. No idea what that meant.
Do you know what is a pro card?
The pro card. Now I know what that means. That means, hey, I'm now a professional bodybuilder, you know, in the IFBB. Oh, okay. That's what that means. So when I was going for it, my coach at the time was like, hey, listen, I think you can get your pro card in women's figure. I'm like, really? I don't even know what that means, but okay. He said, I think you can do it. All right. So I trained for it. And looking back, I'm like, wow, this man saw my potential. So not only did I become pro in women's figure, I ended up becoming pro in women's physique. And that was like within 15 months, 16 months of me even just starting to compete. So your coach sees a potential in you that you yourself don't see, but they believe in you. And in believing in you, you begin to believe in yourself and you see your ultimate potential. So it is very important that your coach believes in your goal and you guys believe together. And that leads us to our next part. They're the experts. So after you sat down and laid out your plan, and they sat down and laid out their plan, you need to just follow the plan. They are the experts. Ain't nobody got time for your whining and your boo-hooing, because
do what you are told. Do it as it is designed. Follow the structure. There is a reason and there's a purpose. Number one thing, what did I say was the number one thing in my personal opinion? They need to be a master at what they do. They need to have put in the time and the energy to know it inside and out. So now I have hired you, or I've requested you, or I've bartered with you, however this relationship was established. Because why? Because you have taken the time to master what it is that I'm trying to attain. Correct. So if I knew it, I'd be doing it on my own, right? Yeah. I mean, logically. So, but I do what you are told. I mean, you know, one of my favorite movies, The Karate Kid. I don't have to date myself, because whether you have the original one or the one with Will Smith's son, they both have the same thing. Same thing, you know? Wax on, wax off. Wax off. True. Like, you know, during the process, why are we doing this? Why do I have to hold the brush this way? Why do I have to do it in this motion? One, because I said so. Just get over it. I said so. But in the end, you may not see it in the time, but as you said, a master at something, they have a vision, they see what is possible, and you may not see it possible for you yet. But if you have the faith in the person that you've hired or the person you have requested to be that mentor for you, then you follow their process to get to the goal. And in the end, you will see, oh, that's why you made me do it that way. Oh, that's why I had to take those steps.
Correct.
Because now I am ready for whatever comes along.
Because at the end of the day, your coach has your best interest in mind. If you hired,
if you got the right one, yes.
Got the right one. Now, again, if you got the right one, sometimes they don't have to tell you every single detail because you may not have the knowledge base just yet to understand all those details. It's like when God reveals a plan. God never tells you the whole thing. Like, hey, look.
I wish you would, though.
Yeah. You know what? One of my friends brought up a really good point. She says, if God revealed his entire plan for you, do you think you'd be so open-armed and welcome? Because when that plan, when you see it at the end, you're like, oh, if you saw that in the beginning, chances are you would have ran, because you would see all the work, all the pitfalls, all the challenges, everything that it came along with achieving that goal. So as they say, it's a lamp upon your feet, meaning he just lights your way. You can see one step in front of you. This is why they tell you, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at
a time.
Because we can't take on the entire vision. So sometimes your coach sees so much that you can't take it on just yet. So they just feed you one bite at a time, one rep at a time, one weight at a time, one project at a time. And by the time you're done, you just ate the whole elephant. And you're like, oh, not only did I eat the whole elephant, I got room for more, So trust your coach. They are here to support you. So that is definitely one of those next things. The next thing that you'll have from a really good coach, Marie said this, and I was like, wow, she's right. Unbothered. Completely unbothered by the whining, the complaining. It's not that they don't care, but they don't care because they understand the process. They understand that this you is dying. The old you is dying, and the ego, as Marie said in the beginning, it is fighting to remain in the status quo. It's like, wait a minute, we were comfortable here, and the new you is fighting to evolve and burst out of this cocoon of the old you, and it is painful, and you're going to complain. And your coach understands the process because they have undergone that process too. So they're going to hear you.
What's interesting about in all of us as human beings, and be very clear. As I speak, I'm speaking based on, experience and knowledge that I've gained along the way. And I have a whole lifetime of experience and knowledge yet to gain. So I'm speaking to you and I'm speaking to myself because we are all human in this journey. But it's a matter of understanding that as a human being, you're going to resist what is not what you already know. You're going to resist what is not already what you are comfortable in. It may be unfulfilling. You may be even unhappy in it, but you know it. You know how to deal with it. You know how to navigate it. You know your role in it, and you know others' roles in it, because we all get support in our unhappiness. It takes a village, right? But that comfort and that willingness to be in a place that may not be fulfilling, that may not be happy, they may not be all that it can be. It doesn't all has to be negative. You may be content, but if you ever have the urging that I know there's more, or I want more, or there's something beyond what I've already established, that is the role of a mentor. Every great athlete has a coach. Every great business person had mentors before them. Every success story that you hear or read about, they list, here are all the people that came before me. Here are all the people that have helped me. People of color. It's Black History Month right now.
Yes.
How many have come before us and laid a path before us? We acknowledge them. Why? Because they were willing to break past the fear. They were willing to break past the obstacles. They were willing to do things that they didn't know how it was going to come out necessarily, but they knew the greater vision of where they were going. So they were willing to put forth the effort, put forth their lives, honestly,
yes,
to get to a goal. Why? Because the evolution of who we are as a people was at stake.
Yes.
So whether it's lose 5 pounds or change the world, what is at stake has to be the focus and has to be the thing that reminds you when you're going through the struggle, when the ego is dying, when
Yes.
you say, no, I can't do it. That is what the greater purpose is. And that's what you're striving for. And a mentor and a coach, they're just there to remind you of that.
And you know what? That leads us to our final point as to the characteristics of a good coach. You should always move as your coach is watching you. Move as if the coach is always watching you. And I love the analogy that you brought up in terms of Black History Month, because if you look at it, we move as if our ancestors are watching us because we want to honor them. They are watching us because we honor them in everything that we do. I remember growing up, my parents would always say, when we send you out into the world, you represent us, right? Because we're both Haitian. So we grew up in that Haitian house. So when you on the street, you represent us.
Listen, as a child, I was clear that my mother knew every Haitian that lived in New York City, because it didn't matter where. If I went to the store after school to get some now later and got home 5 minutes late, she'd be like, "Oh, sister so-and-so said she saw you. How did she see me? I went, it was fun." Okay.
It doesn't matter.
It was like that. It was the
network of people that are in the neighborhood, in your community. Everybody's watching out for you. And I remember I was away at college, Washington, D.C. I'm taking the bus, walking to my bus stop. I get on, and this was public bus, and I get on the bus, and the bus driver looks at me. He says, I saw you walking to class this morning because, you take the route going, coming back. And he said, one thing that I always say, and when I look at you, you are a proud young woman. He said, you always walk with your head held high. He says, I know your parents are proud of you. And I was so honored by that, because this is a stranger. I don't know this man. Right. I just know him from taking the bus around the same time. But, for him to see that, I was like, wow. And I said to him, my parents have always said that. Remember, you represent us. So if you are always moving as if your coach and your mentor are always watching you, it's not to say that, it's not a sense of pressure in a negative sense, like, hey, we're watching you. But what it begins to do is it begins to make you accountable for your actions, because you become that coach's voice. You learn your coach's voice, and now you begin to take on that coach's voice in your mind. So when you begin to see yourself straying off path, you hear your coach's voice that has somehow become your voice. So always move as if your coach is watching you.
That little voice in your head we all have little voices in our heads. And it can be replaced by the person that's there to actually see you fulfill on a goal, fulfill on an accomplishment, versus the little voice in your head that can keep telling you, I can't, I won't, it's never going to happen. So exactly what you said, replacing that voice or being conscious of what is playing in repeat in your mind is yet another tool for you to really succeed and move forward.
All right, so fam, we'll be right back after these commercial breaks, right back to talking about what it means to be coachable, and what are the characteristics of a good coach. Because again, this season is all about reclaiming your dreams and speaking your truth and being coached into a new you.